Language Lessons by Kathy Pease. It was the summer of 1969. Richard Nixon was the president, and the Vietnam War was dividing the country. A gallon of gas cost 35 cents, and a house cost $15,000. In 2 whirlwind months, I had graduated college, gotten married, and moved to California. My husband, a Navy sailor, made $330 a month. We needed money for rent, and fast. I interviewed for a teaching job in Vallejo, and smack in the middle of the interview, they informed me that they didn't hire Navy wives because of the high chance for transfer. I was devastated, and I cried all the way home. Then, 3 weeks into the school year, I got a call from the school district. "We have a classroom for you." Wait, what had happened? Wasn't I still a Navy wife? It's a 3rd/4th grade combination class, and just a word of warning, 2 teachers have already left the class. I didn't even hear the warning. All I heard was, "I have a job!" Excited, I got my keys over the weekend and I fixed up my classroom. I was a teacher. Our income had suddenly doubled. On Monday morning, when the bell rang, I stood proudly near my desk, waiting to welcome my students. The door crashed open as a stream of 26 students burst into the room. "Move over, asshole! Fuck you! That's my foot, motherfucker! Is this our new teacher? Not for long." I felt myself tremble. I was facing a diverse group of students that did not look happy to see me. One boy, Billy, who was a head taller than the rest, shouted, "It's okay, motherfuckers, we'll get rid of her too." A wave of shock ran through me. What exactly had I gotten myself into? I just reacted. I picked up 2 heavy textbooks from my desk and I sent them crashing to the ground. Thud! Total silence. Everyone was shocked, including me. I had not learned this technique in teacher training. I was flying by the seat of my pants, but an inner strength welled up in me and I said, "Sit down, now! You are in my classroom and you will listen." Total silence. And then a timid "fuck you" from the back of class. I felt my heart pounding. I had nothing left to throw. I told them to focus on the mimeographed puzzles that I had left in their desks earlier that day. The reassuring sound of desks opening. And then Billy shouted, "Motherfucker, I ain't gonna do it," as 3 other students wadded up their papers and threw them at their classmates. But I chose to ignore them because most of my students were actually paying attention. The recess bell freed us from one another as my children rushed to the playground. Still in a daze, I found my way to the teacher's break room and grabbed a cup of coffee. Several teachers were seated around a large wooden desk. One overweight middle-aged teacher stared at me as she sucked on her cigarette. "So, a new teacher doth appear. Good God, they just keep getting younger and younger." "Just how old are you, dear?" "I'm 22, and my name is Kathy Pease, by the way." "Wow, Kathy Pease. You got the class from hell." You see, 2 teachers have already left, so they feel like they've won. They put all the dummies and the screw-ups in one classroom, and then they wonder why they can't get a teacher to keep the class. They created a war zone, and they're calling it a classroom. Too soon, the bell rang, and I steeled myself to open up that door again. At the end of the first week, it was clear to me that my classroom textbooks were too advanced for my class. Billy was one that struggled the most. He was 12 years old, and he couldn't read. He wanted nothing from school, but boy, did he love to dance. I decided to start each day by drawing a giant 60 on the board, and I informed my students that we could dance for an hour to Chubby Checker at the end of class. Oh boy, and they went for it. The trick, of course, was that every time I had to wait to get their attention, I would erase a minute. Oh, and it worked. Every time I would erase a minute, Billy would yell, "You motherfuckers better listen, we gonna dance today." I needed all the help that I could get. A classroom of 26 students has an energy that can change in a heartbeat. 1 minute, a student would throw a wadded up spelling lesson, and I would deal with it, just as another one would say, "I ain't gonna do it," just as another one would walk by one of his fellow classmates and punch him in the shoulder. I was playing whack-a-mole at the arcade. I was not an educator, I was an enforcer, and not a very good one at that. My children did learn that they needed to walk to the playground when the recess bell rang. Running would cost them precious class minutes. I decided to make Billy and James, another outlier, line leaders. The little motherfuckers listened to them. And my children no longer created chaos on the stairs. One day on the playground, I watched as David, the school bully, was about to punch a much younger kid. I raced across that playground, running faster than I had in years. I grabbed the bully and I marched him straight to the principal's office. The playground was silent as students stopped playing their games and stared to see what would happen next. The principal took me aside. That was impressive, Miss Pease, but if you want to be successful in this profession, you're going to have to learn how to control your students without running them down. My face flushed at the rebuke. I sulked back to class. My lack of experience had caught up with me again. Yet, when I entered my classroom, many of my students were wearing wide smiles. I was surprised to hear James say, "Man, Miss Pease, you sure can run." The rest of the students all smiled and nodded in agreement. They were proud of me. As the year progressed, I learned more and more about my students' home lives. Dwayne, a quiet student and an excellent reader, was often tardy. When I asked him about it, he said, "I'm sorry, Miss Pease. I gotta get my kid brother ready for school too." "Well, can't your mother help?" "No, she's not up that early." I learned that she was a single mother, working 2 jobs and fighting an alcohol addiction. My heart opened as I imagined this little 3rd grader waking up his kid brother, getting him breakfast, and bringing him to school every day. Billy, now the class leader, still struggled with reading, and it pained me to watch him because I could tell that part of him was just giving up. When I asked the other teachers about it, they said, just give him coloring pages and tell him to shut up and color. But I just wouldn't give up that easily. So I searched the supply closet and I found some kindergarten books that were a little bit more his speed. Pretty soon, he and I started, what he needed was a reading teacher, but all we had was each other. I also made flashcards for him with simple words like cat, bell, and house. Pretty soon, he started to recognize new words. The first time that he read a string of words in a row by himself, we looked at each other. Yes! In that moment, he was my hero. His dark eyes had a sparkle. He could do hard things. I could do hard things. When June arrived, I prepared report cards and I did end-of-the-year testing. 25 of my 26 students had made progress. Billy scored 2 months higher on reading comprehension. On the final day, I handed the kids their report cards, hugged each one, and took their picture with the camera that my husband had given me for Christmas. I wanted to remember each child. And I took one last look around the room. I grabbed my purse, and I reached for my camera. It was gone. Fuck! One of those little deers had stolen my Christmas camera. Thank you.
Kathy Pease, you just had your piece, language lessons performed on stage. How do you feel?
I just loved it because this wonderful actress was me at 22.
Yeah, right.
I just thought she hit the nail on the head, and I'm so grateful that she performed my piece.
Tell us a little bit about the editing and the writing process and how you kind of developed the piece for being on stage.
I submitted it, and then Marnie and you and I went over it and tweaked it a bit to put more feeling into the part about me getting to really understand and love my students rather than just the craziness of the language and all that. So, and the process didn't take long, and it was great.
How did it feel having the audience laugh so hard at Leigh's performance?
Love that. It just really, it just made me laugh too. Yeah.
Any advice for anyone thinking of entering the Memoir Showcase next year that might
Enter. Oh, enter. It's so fun to have your work performed. And why not enter? What do you have to lose? And you could be a winner, come on.
Leigh, you're a returning showcase writer, but a showcase actor, but this one seemed to really fit you. So tell us a little about the experience. The crowd was in your hands. How did that feel?
Yeah, I was saying, I feel like Kathy's, it was the easiest for me to memorize of all of the ones that I've had to memorize. And I think it's because you were an English teacher or a teacher that you just have a sense of the language. And so it was just like, it felt very clean as I was memorizing it. And I could almost see myself in the classroom. It was a really great piece. It was such a joy. I felt honored. Yeah.
Great.
That's it. We're good.
Thank you so much.